Hi Trojans, Mrs. Ratsburg here, doing day 3 contingency plan lessons. This is when we're going to start learning new material. So this is what this topic we were going to do right after spring break. So we're really not too far behind my original plan. So today's lesson, if you wanted to follow along in your journal, is pages 15 and 16, lesson 2.6, writing equations, but it's also day 3. Okay, so we are going to be reading story problems today and then writing an equation that demonstrates that story problem and then solving that story problem. Okay, so what it says at the top, if you have to write an equation given a story problem and then solve it, these are some steps to follow. You want to define the variable, then think about a verbal description of that equation, so what's really happening, what's the bare bones of it. Then convert that verbal description to an equation, and then finally solve the equation. So let's look at this first story problem. So it says, for a field trip, 7 students rode in cars, and the rest filled 4 buses. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to circle the 4 buses and the 7 students for cars, and then I'm going to keep reading how many students were in each bus if 171 students were on the trip. And I'm going to underline that 171 students, box it, because that really tells me my end goal here. So now I need to ask myself, well, what do I not know? And that would be how many students were in each bus. So I'm going to say X equals students on one bus. So then I need to think about, well, what's really happening in the story problem? Well, I know I have people in cars plus my 4 buses, and that equals my total people on my buses. So how does that translate into an equation? Well, the people in the cars would be 7 plus the 4 buses. Now I can't just write a plus 4 because I need to be, everything is going to be equaling the total number of students, which is 171. So I have to think, well, how can I emulate or show that number of students? But then I can remember, well, X represents the students on one bus. So then 2X's would be 2 busfuls, 3X would be 3 busfuls, and 4X's would be 4 busfuls. So it would be 7 plus 4X equals, I'm going to just do a little erasing here, equals 171. And that's my equation. So this represents the 7 people in my cars plus the people in the buses giving me my total. So then I'm just going to solve this off to the side here. So 7 plus 4X equals 171. Draw my line, subtract 7 on both sides. 7 minus 7 is 0. Bring down my 4X. 4X equals 171 minus 7. I'm going to do a little regrouping here. So 164. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, leaving me with X equals 164 divided by 4 is 41. So that means X equals 41 students, which makes sense because, that has to be quite a few people to have a total of 171. All right, example 2. Crystal had, I'm going to get my highlighter out, she had $20.20 to spend on 4 raffle tickets. After buying them, she had $6.20. How much did each raffle ticket cost? So I'm seeing some pretty important things going on. So I have this initial money, and I spent it on 4 raffle tickets, and I equaled, in the end, $6.20. So let's start off with figuring out what X is. So what do I not know? What do I need to find out? I need to know the cost of 1 raffle ticket because it says how much did each raffle ticket cost. The question usually tells me what the variable I need to write is. So X equals cost of 1 raffle ticket. All right, so then let's think of a verbal description here. Let's think about what's really happening here. So I have some money, but then I spend it. Spending is subtracting on 4 raffle tickets, and I'm left with my leftover money. So how would I write that with words, or with numbers and symbols? Well, the initial money I have is, don't need to label with my equation, $20.20 minus taking away my 4 raffle tickets. So X again represents 1 raffle ticket. So it's kind of like pouches, how 1X represented 1 pouch, and 4 pouches represented 4 X's. So that must mean that 4 raffle tickets would be 4X. So minus 4X equals $6.20. So that would be my equation. Just going to box that so I know. Now I'm going to solve it. So 20.20 minus 4X equals 6.20. Draw my line. So my X's are going to stay on the left. So I'm going to subtract 20.20 cents on both sides. $20.20 minus itself is 0. So I'm just left with negative 4X. Don't forget to bring that negative sign. And then $6.20 minus $20.20 would be negative $14. Next, I have to divide both sides by my negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. So I'm left with X equals negative 14 divided by negative 4 would be $3, 3.5. But then that's not money. So my final answer would be X equals $3.50. Okay, so those are more straightforward. If we go on to page 16, remember you should be following along in your journal or on your PDF, going back and forth, because you will have to turn in all of these pages, not just the assignment pages, because I want to make sure that you're actually copying these down. So if you need to pause, go back, copy it down, go for it. That's the beauty of videos. Okay. So Kim had some candy to give to her 5 children. That seems important. 5 kids. She first took 7 pieces for herself. So 7, taking, I'm going to circle that because taking means subtraction most likely. And then evenly divided the rest among her children. Each child received 3 pieces. With how many pieces did she start? So let's first, we have our question. So that means X equals candy to start with. All right, so now let's think about what happened with this candy. So it appears as though I had candy, then I took, so subtract candy for self, then I divided it to my kids, and I was left with 3 for each. So now let's think about how that would look in an equation. So candy is what we don't know. We don't know how much candy to start off with, so that would be X minus. Then this Kim, she took 7 pieces, so that'd be minus 7. But then after she took the 7 pieces, then she divided the rest among her kids, and we know she has 5 children, so divided by 5 equals, and each child after you divide it equaled, they each got 3. So that's my equation here. Now let's solve it. So we have, I'm going to rewrite it, X minus 7 divided by 5 equals 3. So we see that first division, so that means we have to multiply both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I'm left with X minus 7 equals 3 times 5 is 15. Add 7 on both sides, and I'm left with X equals 22. So X equals 22 pieces. All right, last example. Again, make sure you're following along. On Tuesday, Mary bought 10 hats. So she bought more hats. That seems like a plus. I'm just going to write a plus sign right now. On Wednesday, half of her hats were destroyed. Okay, so that sounds like division. Divide by 2 maybe. On Thursday, there were only 13 left. How many hats did she have on Monday? All right, so let's first say what X is. So X is, what's our question? How many did she have on Monday? So it'd be X equals hats on Monday. Then I'm going to write my verbal equation. So I know I have some hats on Monday. Then I bought 10 more. So plus Tuesday hats But then half of them were destroyed, so I'm going to have to divide by 2. And then that's going to equal my leftover on Thursday. So now let's think about it. So hats on Monday is X, plus the hats that Mary bought, 10 of them. But then half of them were destroyed. So that means I have to divide that amount by 2, and then I'm left with 13. So that's my equation. So again, let's think about this. If we work backwards, I ended up with 13 hats. Right? Ended up with 13. Before that, half of them were destroyed. That's where this divided by 2 business comes from. Before I divided by 2, Mary bought 10 hats to my original X hats on Monday. So now let's solve this. So I'm going to rewrite X plus 10 divided by 2 equals 13. Multiply both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I'm left with X plus 10 equals 13 times 2 is 26. Subtract 10 on both sides. Bring down my X. X equals 16. So X equals 16 hats, which makes sense because you have 16 by 10 more. That's 26. Then you destroy half of them. Half of 26 is 13, which is what happened on Thursday when they counted the hats. So those are our 4 examples. Feel free to listen again. I also have all this work is also uploaded within the answer key journal in Canvas. That's not going away. And then your homework are the next 2 pages. It's not lesson 2.6 homework. It's actually lesson 2.7 homework because it has better example problems. And that's pages 38 and 39. As always, please let me know if you have any questions about any of these assignments. And I will be more than happy to reach out and help you. Don't forget to turn it in. I will be checking these for correctness. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.